Hello, everyone, and welcome into Next Round Ready. I'm your host, Chris. Today we have a very special guest, Dana Robinson. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and it's wonderful to meet you, Chris.
So, before we get too deep into how to pitch, I know that's your expertise. I know that's your thing. A lot of founders have an issue with just finding the companies to talk to, the VCs. They have an issue building these relationships and connecting. Can you speak to the process of connecting and building that relationship from founder to VC?
The process of connecting to the right investors starts with mindset. That in founders, if they come in with the mindset of building relationships, then it's a lot easier to find the right people. This isn't like selling a product that's a quick sale. Investors invest in founders that they know and like and trust, and so they want to get to know you. And networking, warm introductions, meeting people at events, all of that is so much more effective than cold emails or cold LinkedIn messages. Yes. Because this is the start of a really deep relationship. If you're going to work with an investor for maybe 10 years, you really want to make sure that they're a fit for you and they want to make sure that you're a fit for them. So the first thing that I encourage my clients to do, and any founders that I meet, is to create an ideal investor profile. Kind of like if you talk to a marketing manager or hire a marketing consultant, they're going to ask you for your ideal customer profile. And you actually really need to create it with that kind of process. Who's your ideal investor? What industries do they invest in? How much do they invest? What kind of founders do they support? Do they support mission, or is it much more around the money? What geographic areas? Based on what you need, that's the kind of profile you build. And then you're kind of going in there trying to find the right fit, as opposed to just, spamming and send me, I want here, send me money. You really want to make sure you're talking to the right people, or otherwise it's just a waste of time.
And I've realized that a lot of founders take that approach of just throwing darts at a wall on LinkedIn. They just want to go spam, and their idea of pitching and connecting is whoever is a VC that wants to talk to me, I'll take the meeting. And it's not being selective. It sounds like what you're saying is you want to build key relationships and be selective in that process.
Absolutely. And actually, you do want to be selective, because if you're going to have somebody on your cap table for 8 or 10 or more years, you want to make sure that you can work with them and that you trust them. And they're going to choose founders that they can work with and that they trust. So it's kind of like the process of finding investors is kind of like dating, right? You're not just going to spam everybody and say, who's going to go out with me? You're going to be selective and find somebody that you'll connect with. And then when you do have that first date, you're not just going to reveal everything in one dump. You're going to be interesting and create curiosity so that you can get to the next meeting. And that's really what it's at. So that first pitch is the beginning of a relationship. It's not a invest or not situation. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like founders have that approach to it. This one first initial conversation, it's like a winner take all. Like, if this goes great, then great. I got the funding and I've won. But it seems like that's the wrong approach to have.
Well, it isn't, because that's also not realistic.
Exactly.
Right? It's going to take a while. Nobody ever invests after a first meeting. They always want to get to know the founder. And this is where if you have to kind of think about what's important to investors. If you ask any investor, ask every investor you meet, what's your number one criteria on making an investment? The top answer you will hear is team. They invest in teams or founders that they have confidence in their capability, and that they're going to be committed to this to this venture. And so you actually want to they want to get to know you. They really want to get to know you. They want to make sure that they can trust you, that you're credible, that you're going to be easy to work with. And, it's like that first date. You can't just dump everything out there and expect them to make a decision. If you can just leave them curious on purpose, like, here's what I'm building, here's my vision, and be really clear in that initial pitch so that they're curious, they want to ask questions, they want to have a follow-up meeting, you're a lot better off than people that get too excited and try to throw in too much information in their pitch. And then it's just confusing and overwhelming, and then the conversation kind of ends because they're confused.
That makes sense. It seems like you can kind of overwhelm a VC to a point where they're just kind of backing up, like, all right, you said a little bit too much. I don't know what this is, but I'm out. And it could ruin it really fast by just kind of word vomiting.
It can. And that is actually the number one mistake that I see in pitches, is that most pitches have too much information. And when you have too much information in a pitch, it's hard to remember the important ideas. So really, it's more important to say less, be really clear and concise, so that you leave them with clarity and curiosity, not confusion and overwhelm.
Clarity and curiosity. So let me ask you this, because I'm pretty sure a founder listening to this would ask, okay, so what do I send? Do I send a video? Do I send my pitch deck? If I'm connecting with this VC for that first initial conversation, it may not even be a full meeting. Like, is there some specific bullet points I should cover to leave them with that curiosity? Or should I just go in there like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm building. If you're interested, let's talk. Like, keep it really short.
Well, it should be really short, because all investors, whether they're VCs or angel investors, are busy. Nobody's going to read a long email. It needs to be really short and clear. And the best way to meet people, though, is to go to events or do some networking and get warm intros, or be really targeted in your outreach. And when you do that, that means that the investors you are reaching out to, are a fit. By industry, by stage, by the amount they invest, by the area, by the types of founders they support. So when you give your outreach, think about what is important to your investors, not just what you're building. And by that mean, you have to kind of get in their head a little bit. Like, okay, if this investor invests in, let's say it's climate tech and seed stage and companies in the Pacific Northwest. If it's that specific, like there are VCs that are that specific. And so, and not all of them are that specific, but quite a few are. Or maybe they're nationwide, but they're a very specific industry and stage. When you reach out to them, make sure you let them know how you're a fit. Right? We're doing this very specific thing. It's like, what's unique about you? Start with a hook, short sentences, not a long paragraph, and let them know how you're a fit for them.
I love that approach, because for me, I would want to save time. And the idea of reaching out to hundreds or thousands of VCs, just sending those spam messages doesn't sound fun to me. It sounds better to pitch to, like you said, shorten that list to like 15. But with that 15, I know that the company I'm building fits with these 15, so that increases my chances of success.
Yes, and sometimes you may not get investment dollars from everybody you meet. But if you connect and start building relationships, there's a saying that goes, if you ask for money, you'll get advice. And if you ask for advice, you're more likely to get money. So if you connect to people, as in, hey, I'm in this industry, can I talk to you, and have a really good reason, and you manage to have a conversation, if they're not a fit, they will know who you should talk to. They will, if you have that great connection and build a relationship, you're more likely to get warm intros.
See, I see why you prioritize connecting so much, because it's just, if you're genuine when you do the outreach and you're trying to build that connection, it almost seems like you shouldn't even prioritize the money the most, because it just seems like it would dilute your perspective on every conversation you have. Because some people that you speak to, like you said, they might not give you money, but they could introduce you to 10 people who will. If you're just focused on money and you don't get that part, so you throw the relationship away, you could really slow down your process of getting to that pitch stage of getting the funding that you actually want.
Yeah, and I think in the land of investment, relationship building is more important than anywhere that I've seen. I have a VC friend who tells founders, the first time we meet better not be when you pitch me. She wants people to connect much sooner. And she says, find me at events. Her and her team are at events all the time. They're meeting founders. They speak at conferences. They take meetings. They have office hours. They want to actually get to know a founder and follow their progress for several months before they make an investment decision. So the time to talk to investors is not when you're desperate for cash. It's when you're building something and you want to get to know people in your industry.
I like that. I like that thought process. Okay, we got to transition now. You guys have heard a lot about how to find the people and how to approach and how to connect. Now let's talk a little bit more about the actual pitch aspect. We've built the connection. We have 5 different companies we're going to talk to. What is the pitch process like? Should it be the same for every conversation? Like, I have like a template, a script I go through? Or am I changing based on who I'm talking to? How do I approach this as a first-time founder trying to get my funding?
When you are going in to talk to investors, be prepared to adapt. And remember, every investor is different, so you will probably have to adapt your pitch to who you're talking to. Also, as you're creating your pitch, the number one rule is to think about what investors want. Your pitch is not about you. Your pitch is about investors.
Wait. That's a good line. It's not about you.
It's not. It's kind of like if you're selling something, right? If I'm selling you this special brand of tea, I'm not going to say, this is why I like it. I'm going to talk about, this is why you will probably like it, right? I hear that you're health conscious. This is green tea. It has antioxidants, right? So when you're talking to investors, talk about what's important to them, not what's important to you. And this is a mistake I see in pitches all the time. When founders come in and they start talking about their number one topic is what they're building. They go into a lot of detail on this cool product, and these are the features, and these are the features we're going to add. And when we get more funding, we're going to hire engineers to add even these more features. And I can tell you with 100% conviction that investors do not care about your product features. Because investors don't invest in products. They invest in businesses. And so investors want to hear about your vision and what problem you're solving for your customers and how's your solution unique and how's your business going to make money. What's that business model? I have a good friend of mine who's an angel investor, does a lot of screening calls for her angel group. And she told me in a conversation, she says, Dana, we get so many great product ideas with no business model. And so investors aren't going to look at a product idea. They're not your customer. They want to know, what's the business? What's the business model? How's it going to grow? What's it going to look like if it's wildly successful? That's what should be in your pitch.
That's an interesting point on not having a business model. Because I think sometimes founders do get so caught up on the product and the ideas. I've seen some pitches where they focus like 3 or 4 slides, I kid you not, on like the design. It's like, you didn't talk about the problem, the size of the market, what the best case scenario looks like in terms of growth and scale. And it seems like you as a founder, you have to have sort of a roadmap of where you want the conversation to go before it starts, because the people you're talking to are going to help you guide it. You kind of have to have a plan before it starts, because you don't want to just be off the rails in there.
Yeah, you do need a plan before it starts. And it actually starts with mindset. If you get yourself in this mindset of investor focus, my pitch and my delivery is going to be entirely focused on for the benefit of investors. And so this, you're like, yeah, okay, what's investor focus? If you haven't heard of it before, it's because I made it up. But this is what it means. Well, I told you what it means. Like, it means everything's focused on investors. It's like if you're giving a presentation, you're going to think about who's your audience. In this case, it's a pitch. Who's that investor? What's important to them? What's meaningful to them? What are they going to want to know about? Remember, you've created this ideal investor profile. So thinking about that investor, if they're an impact investor, you need to talk about the impact. If they're all about growth and software and tech, you need to talk about that. You need to make it really clear why they should be excited about this. And then follow that path of what investors want to know. Really dig into, make that problem really clear. And when I say clear, I don't mean like explain it for 5 minutes. I mean get it so clear that you can say it in 1 or 2 sentences. And they'll go, oh, I get it. So, and that takes time, having that clarity. But to create that map, that narrative of a pitch, requires a lot of brainstorming and planning. Don't start on your deck. Create that narrative first. Whether you storyboard it across a whiteboard or put Post-it notes on the wall or just do a lot of writing and brainstorming with your team, plan out the narrative first so that you can explain your problem, your solution, this market opportunity, why now, and your business model, every section of the pitch in just a couple sentences each, so that you can be really clear and concise with investors.
I like that. I like the idea of planning the narrative before making the deck, because it's something where you could lose focus really fast, trying to make it look pretty. And how many slides do I need? Should I put this many words on it? And that's just going to be a lot easier when you already have a narrative to follow. When you already have this is what I want this to look like. This is what I want to say. This is the order in which I want to say it. Like, when you have that, then making the deck is just a cakewalk.
It is. And also and then on the delivery side, if you practice it first with just the narrative and no deck, that's where you can really test it. You can test, is this the order that it should be? Is this the story arc that I want?
And by practice, you mean practice just speaking the narrative out loud?
Absolutely. Practice it out loud. Record it. Watch it. Does this make sense? Really make sure that narrative is very clear before you even start on the deck. And add stories in there, because stories connect at a human level, and they're more memorable than just a bunch of data. So plan out how, like, as if you were creating, this whole story. What's the story arc from beginning to end, that the whole thing makes sense, and somebody who's not familiar with your business or your industry will understand it.
And after the investor hears that story, they process it, man, that makes sense. Then they'll be interested possibly in investing in you. If you can talk about the problem, give an example of somebody that faced this problem, your solution. And this is another question. This is a personal one for me. I'm going to be honest, because I've always wondered, like, should I be pitching to a investor after I already have customers paying for this product, so I can say this is a solution and we're solving this problem right now in real time? Or is it also possible to go in there like, this is how we want to solve this problem and we need your money to do it?
It's much better if you're talking to investors after you have some customers, so that you can give a really credible and clear story on that problem and solution from the perspective of a customer journey. This is what their pain point was, where they were stuck. This is the outcome after we worked with them. And that it's so much more clear
And
what
it
they
seems
do.
like the narrative part that you're speaking of would be so much easier to follow. I wouldn't feel pressure if I'm talking about a problem and my product being the solution. I would have multiple examples to really rely on at that point. Now it's really easy. So if I connected with the investor, now I'm telling them the story. Is there another element of the pitch that we haven't discussed yet? Like, I don't want to go to the end for the full ask. Not there. Before we get to that point, like what's that in between time like?
Well, the in between time depends on your story arc, right? You, at some point, yes, you're going to talk about your product, but do it from the perspective of benefits to customers, not product features. I challenge you to give your pitch without mentioning any product features. Talk about benefits instead. Benefits are so much more interesting than features. And then at some point in your pitch, make it clear why now. Market opportunity is so much more than market size. It also should include, like, why is this an opportunity now? Maybe there's a trend in the industry that you've noticed because you're an expert that this is going to be real, this is picking up, and this business is going to capitalize on that. Or there's something going on in your industry or in consumer behavior that it's like, this is why now. And back that up. That is credible. And also, why you? When you get to that team slide, or when you're talking about you or your team, it's not just, here's my title, I'm the CEO, and here's where I used to work. I want to know, why are you the best team for this business? Is it your expertise? Is it your conviction? Is it a personal experience that happened to you that you are absolutely committed to solving this problem? We want to know.
That seems important because I have seen the decks where they just literally lay out every job the person's had. Like it'll be 10, 15 jobs. It's like, that doesn't seem as impactful, in my opinion, just my humble opinion, as saying, something that's more specific to that specific company they're working on now. And I've seen some where they would put a team of like 10 people on a pitch deck. And I'm always like, that seems like a little too many. 'Cause it's just like, it's so many people on your team and you're looking Series A, you're trying to get that initial round, whatever it is, and you already have this massive team of people. It just seems like it throws off the balance of what you're trying to do, of prove, like you said, why you. And I don't think it speaks to you and your personality if you're just listing the jobs and everybody's job is on your team. It's just, again, it's another one of those overwhelming films.
It shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be obvious that, wow, this team has the expertise and the commitment to run this business. We want to be impressed quickly, not buried in details.
Impressed quickly. Okay. Is there another way to impress investors quickly? And specifically, I'm speaking from maybe having a large audience online, maybe having some experience as a speaker in the industry. I'm specifically speaking to that industry excellence and like saying, I've been in this space for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and I make a bunch of content. I educate people in this way. Like, is that also a leverage point for a founder?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, to show quickly how you're the expert is helpful, but also to impress investors quickly. I think the best way to do it is to just to be so concise and clear in your message. Like to start with a hook. That one sentence statement where people go, oh, I get it. That's really impressive. And if people can describe the problem and the solution with such clarity and so concise that it's like obvious to investors that there's problem-solution fit. And I say problem-solution fit, like you may think, well, it's obvious. If this is a problem, this is my solution, there's a fit. But you'd be surprised at how often pitches don't have problem-solution fit. The problem might be quite vague, or it's too general, or it's more of a mission, but it's not really the problem that's being solved. So it has to be really clear that, I'll give you an example on that. I'm a clean tech investor, so I see sometimes pitches that say, the problem is climate change. But then the solution comes up, and the solution is not solving climate change. So there's not a fit. And when there's not a fit, investors might not even notice that doesn't fit. To them, it just seems like, this doesn't seem that urgent because there's not that clarity. But if you can come on and say, the story of like our client is dealing with a toxic river and they need to clean it up, and our solution cleans that this way with cost-effective way and no waste, then suddenly it's like, wow, that really solves that problem in a unique way. Then investors have that clarity. So that beginning of the pitch with the hook, a really clear intro, problem and solution is what's going to get investors' attention quickly.
And I like the way even at the end you tied in the outcome after the solution, because that can kind of bring the investor in even a little more to kind of see the what is it, the flowers beyond the trees or something like that. Like you can see the other side now because I'm painting the full solution with the outcome for you from the product. Yeah, this sounds like a much better process than just laying out the feature list. Because I've watched a lot of pitches and I've read a lot of the decks and just researching, and it's so funny how often people go into the feature part you're talking about. And I think some of it in their mind as a founder, it's impressive to them. So they're like, oh, this is going to be impressive to the investors,
And, and that's true. And I totally get it. It's human nature. We love to talk about what we know and what we're excited about and what we're working on. But this is where, if we get ourselves in that mindset of investor focus, okay, investors are not building what I'm building. What are they interested in? They're interested in understanding the problem, solution, and what's this market, and how is this going to make money? How can I describe that and still capture my vision? Vision is so much more compelling than features. So that's like you have to really think that before you start creating your pitch.
I love the way you broke that down. Vision is more impressive and compelling than features. Yeah, because I think in all of online business, because we're online, it's just a habit to go straight to the feature list because you think that's what people are buying. Like with all the AI stuff, people are not buying AI. They're buying the outcome and the speed at which AI can solve their problems. That's it. So AI is just kind of a label you can use to convey that. So man, this was a really good conversation. I know you got to run. We don't have you all day. Where can founders find you if they want to connect with you and get more insight on pitching?
Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Dana Sather Robinson. I'm the only Dana Sather Robinson on LinkedIn. I also have my website called pitch4impact.com. That's pitch4impact.com. And there's even some free classes that you can sign up for through my website and just watch and learn a little bit more. And from there, you'll be able to send me an email, and if you have any questions, happy to chat.
I love that. Well, Dana, thank you so much for being on. This was just an amazing conversation. I personally learned a lot. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation, Chris. I loved it.